The first morning I woke up in my new cabin, I thought I had finally escaped the noise of the city. No traffic, no neighbors arguing, no phones ringing every 5 minutes. Just pine trees, a quiet lake, and the sound of birds outside my window. I had spent years saving for that place. It was a small wooden cabin sitting on nearly 20 acres of private land. The property had its own driveway, its own well, and a beautiful view of the mountains. I thought I had found peace. I was wrong. 3 days after I moved in, I was carrying a box from my truck when 2 men in dark security uniforms blocked my driveway. One of them stepped forward. "Sir, you need to leave the property." I laughed. "I own this property." He didn't smile. "You're trespassing on HOA-controlled land." I looked around. There wasn't an HOA sign anywhere. So I asked him a simple question. "Which part of my land belongs to your HOA?" He pointed toward the cabin. "All of it." That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone was trying to take control of my property. My name is Daniel Brooks. I bought the cabin after spending almost 10 years working toward a quieter life. The property was surrounded by forest, with a private gravel driveway leading to the main road. During the closing, the title company showed me the property boundaries. 20 acres, clear title, no HOA membership, no shared ownership, no restrictions giving anyone the right to enter the property. I had signed everything, paid everything, and received the keys. So when those 2 guards told me I was trespassing, I knew something was wrong. I asked them to show me their authorization. The older guard pulled out a laminated card. It had the name of a nearby homeowners association printed across the top. I looked at it. Then I looked at him. "This isn't an HOA property." He smiled. "You'll receive a letter." Then they walked away. The letter arrived that afternoon. It claimed my cabin was located inside an HOA-controlled development. It demanded that I register as an HOA member. It also ordered me to stop using my private driveway until I paid several $1,000s in alleged assessments. I called the title company immediately. They checked the records. Then they told me something that made my stomach drop. My property had been excluded from the HOA when the development was created. In fact, the original survey clearly showed my 20 acres outside the HOA boundary. So why were they claiming otherwise? I started digging, and that's when I found the real story. Years earlier, the HOA had purchased a large tract of forest surrounding my property. They were planning to build luxury cabins. But there was one problem. My property sat directly between the development and the main road. They needed access across my land. I refused. So instead of negotiating with me, they decided to pretend my land belonged to them. And they weren't subtle about it. The guards started showing up almost every morning. Sometimes they stood at the end of my driveway. Sometimes they photographed my cabin. Once, they even put an orange notice on my front door. It said, "Unauthorized occupant." I tore it down. Then I installed cameras. The next morning, I caught one of the guards trying to unlock my gate. I confronted him. He said, "We've been instructed to inspect the property." "By whom?" "The HOA." "Then tell them to send me the deed." He had nothing to say. I contacted the county sheriff and reported the repeated trespassing. The sheriff told me to preserve every recording. So I did. Every vehicle, every guard, every conversation, every attempt to enter my property. Then I discovered something even more important. The HOA had submitted a map to the county showing my cabin as part of their development. But the map didn't match the official county survey. Someone had altered the boundary. I took everything to a property attorney. He studied the documents for several minutes. Then he looked at me and said, "Daniel, they don't own your land." "I know." He shook his head. "No, I mean they don't have any legal access to it either." The next morning, the attorney sent the HOA a formal notice. It demanded that they immediately stop entering my property and remove every unauthorized notice they had placed there. The HOA president responded with a threat. She said they would take me to court. I told my attorney, "Let them." 2 weeks later, we were standing in court. The HOA arrived with lawyers, documents, and their altered property map. They thought they had me cornered. Then my attorney placed the original county survey on the table. The judge compared the 2 maps. The difference was obvious. The HOA's version placed my cabin inside their boundary. The official survey placed my entire property outside it. Then the county recorder testified. He confirmed that my property had never been part of the HOA. The room went silent. But my attorney wasn't finished. He introduced the security footage. One recording showed the guards entering my driveway. Another showed them attempting to open my gate. Another showed them telling me I was trespassing on land I legally owned. The judge looked directly at the HOA's attorney. Why were these people given authority to enter this property? The attorney had no answer. The case ended with the HOA ordered to stop entering my land. The guards were banned from accessing the property, and the HOA had to correct its records. But the biggest surprise came afterward. The county opened an investigation into how the altered map had been submitted. The HOA president eventually admitted that the development company had pressured the board to secure access to my property. They wanted my land because it was the final piece they needed for their luxury cabin project. They thought I would get scared. They thought the guards would make me leave. They thought a few threatening letters would make me surrender. They were wrong. Today, my cabin is exactly what I wanted it to be. Quiet. Peaceful. Mine. I sit on the porch every morning with a cup of coffee and look across the lake. No guards. No HOA notices. No strangers walking through my property. Just the sound of the trees. And every time I see the old gate at the end of my driveway, I remember what those guards told me on that first morning.